This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 58. Welcome to Comic Geek Speak, brought to you in conjunction with WorldFamousComics.com. Your spot on the internet for the best comic book and entertainment-related columns, contests, features, reviews, news, resources, and more. I'm Bryan Deemer.
I'm Kevin Moyer.
I'm Tasha Deemer.
I'm Matt.
I'm Shane Kelly.
I'm Jamie D.
I'm Peter Rios.
We are sexy bitches, yeah!
And welcome to our episode.
Special Baltimore Comic-Con wrap-up.
That's right. We just got back from Baltimore, and it was sweet.
Yes, it was. But first, we have to introduce a new geek.
Kevin, you want to do the honors?
No.
Geek, better half.
Okay.
With us is my friend and girlfriend, Lynn Heck.
Hello,
what
everybody.
the heck?
What the
Heck.
Cool.
Do we want to do a quick
Yeah, sure.
throw-in?
Do it.
What we do with everybody is we start every new member on the show, any new guest on the show, and we ask about your experience getting into comics or your first comics that you read.
Well, thanks for putting me on the spot here. Because of Kevin, I've read a little bit of Daredevil, I've read some Elektra, but the whole series that I did read and get through that I really enjoyed was The Preacher.
Same as Tasha.
I thought it was fantastic. Well written, well drawn, well colored. I just really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's definitely a good book to start out on, I think. It was good.
Cool. Well, welcome to the show. Hello.
Well, thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Howdy.
So, back to Baltimore.
Can we go back to Baltimore?
Peter had way too much fun in
It
Baltimore.
was a lot of fun.
Only if you go to the Turnpike.
Yeah.
Inside joke.
We got there, we got back, and we didn't get lost.
I know we were hoping.
So for those of you who didn't go,
Not that much. Well, thanks, Kev. Jeez.
this was the 6th year that Baltimore Comic-Con has been going on, and it was a lot of fun. It was smaller than Wizard World Philly, which is the last one I've been to. Obviously, compared to San Diego, it's mucho small.
Right. I would say in comparison with like a Wizard World show, like we had Wizard World Philly, I would say like a third, maybe a quarter of the size of
Well,
Wizard
we were
World.
looking at that, and I think it's a little larger than that.
I'd say a third
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah.
I mean, because when we first talked about it, I know I said about a third, and somebody said, well, it's about a quarter. And I'm thinking, after you start walking around and such, there's more to it than what you think, I think.
One of the nice things about it was really a comic book show, as opposed to a multimedia show, as opposed to a manga show, as opposed to a T-shirt show. This was an old-fashioned comic book show.
Good point. I didn't think of it that way, but you're absolutely right.
It's divided up into like 3 different parts where you had the retailers selling their comics, you had publishers / creators, creator booths, and then all along the wall you had the small press artist alley type tables.
And the best part about where all the artists were is their tables were much bigger than even San Diego or Wizard World. Like, normally, a lot of the artists are just in Artist Alley. Here, the artists were all in. They all had a big table, and they were grouped in twos, and then there would be a gap and a walkway, and then there'd be another 2 tables, and so you had lots and lots of room to gather around the creators.
They were even a little isolated from the curtains and stuff so that you could know who you were going to and not disturb the others around.
It was like pods. They had a pod and divided into 4 sections by cubicle walls that were about 8 foot tall. So each corner, so to speak, was a nice area that was isolated. So it wasn't like you had an artist alley where it was just a continuous row of long tables and everybody just sat next to each other. There was that along the back and the front wall, but for your more renowned artists and creators that were exhibiting and performing in the artist alley, they had their own like little cubicle, so to speak.
And I didn't feel like we were blocking anybody else when we were in line waiting for stuff.
Exactly.
No, there was definitely a lot of room. You weren't running into each other. Now, it wasn't as heavily attended as some of these other shows we've been to was. I will say, Saturday was a nice turnout. Sunday typically has always been a very slow day for most of the shows, but you had time. The nice thing I liked is you actually had time to talk to the guys and girls and all creators, and you didn't feel like you were holding the line up that much. It was one of those shows where they were slamming down stacks of 50, 60 comics to certain people to sign. So if I took 5 minutes talking to them after I got my one thing signed, I didn't feel that I was holding up the line at all.
Yeah, very true.
I gotta say, I hate that. 50, 60
Yeah,
bucks.
Yeah.
we've said
We
it
saw it
before.
again.
I
We
know.
saw it again.
Nothing sinks my heart more is to see somebody walk up to a creator and slap down a freaking stack of books and then not say a damn word to them at all. Just stand there and look at them.
But the funny thing is, I've had both of those. I've had, and for those of you who listen, I've talked about Peter David and what he does with them. And a lot of this show, they actually Actor said, after like 5 books, they wanted you to donate to Actor, which some of the creators did, some didn't. But this morning I was standing in line for Mark Waid, and the guy in front of me put down all the issues he's done so far of Legion, the third or whatever number series this one is,
Volume 18.
and a couple other things. And the guy said, "I hope you don't mind," to Mark Waid. And Mark's like, "No, I don't mind." I said, "Heck, this is better than I've seen most of the time." And Mark looked at me and he said, I agree." He said, "But if the person took the time to buy the book and read the book, and I wrote it," he said, "I've written over 600 comics." He said, "I believe I've seen them all this weekend, but I'll sign them because that's you bought it, you read it, I'll sign it." So you get both ends of it. I agree. I freaking hate standing behind that person, but sometimes you actually get to talk to the creator that way too.
I guess my whole thing is, if I have one what's the difference between having one signature and 100 signatures?
eBay.
If I meet that,
I was going to say one word, eBay.
yeah, but it's like if I meet that guy and I pick my favorite or the first book that I bought from him or whatever, and I say, "Look, sign this," it triggers a memory that I met him. I get to talk to him and say thank you and blah 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 blah, and then I can pull it out and I can look at that one issue and go, I met that guy. That was great.
A few artists had a sign that said anything more than 5, and we would appreciate a donation to the Actor Fund,
Yeah.
which I think is a smart move.
I think Jim Starlin took that when I stopped by his table. He took that a step further. His container that he had for Actor had a special sign on it, and he had photocopies of a rejected page of artwork from, I don't know if it was the program book or another book, and he put that on as well. On the other side was a photocopy of the character The Weird, and if you donated like 50 cents or something like that, you got that copy of that photocopy. So he did a little more to encourage people to contribute.
Yeah, Actor had a huge presence this show.
Oh yeah. The other good thing about the signings and all that that completely just went right out of my head.
You got to remember, folks, we're working on about 9
We just
hours
got
sleep.
home. Yeah, we should
for
say
the
that.
entire
We
weekend.
yeah.
So
Yeah, this is Sunday night. We just literally got out of our cars. We just
Between
chomped
the
down
show,
some
Goddess,
pizza
and a
and
few
we-
hours of sleep.
oh, goddess, I love you.
So the big Frank Cho did the cover for the program. It's a Teen Titans, new Teen Titans cover and the poster was available to. They said the first 2,000, but they were available both days. It was available both days. Gorgeous artwork. The guest of honor was Marv Wolfman, and this is what I want to say about the artists. With this type of convention, since most of the artists weren't affiliated with like some of the big publishers, most of them probably were paying, I assume, some of it out of their own pocket. So a lot of the sketches they were also charging for, which is not an unheard of thing. It's not like we're criticizing this or not. But it was cool to see someone like Walt Simonson who still refuses to accept
Take
payment,
any money.
Yeah, for a sketch.
I know. Well, and in a previous episode, and I've pondered this, and I said I felt it was the artist's duty to give free sketches to people, and I mean like a quick, 1 minute head sketch or whatever, and not a half an hour masterpiece. But I guess I'll revise my statement to say that it's their duty to give out free sketches if they're being sponsored by Marvel or DC or somebody to be there. If they're at their own booth and they're paying for it, then all right, they can charge for sketches all day long.
Yeah,
I thought about it a little more, and as we talk to more artists, and I get to see their side of the story a little more, and I see past the fanboy haze, I start to realize, okay.
Well, you think about it. I mean, Mark Teixeira put it in perspective. He wasn't sponsored by anyone, so I mean, he had to pay for his booth, he had to drive down there, he had to pay to stay there, and he's got to make those costs up, or otherwise it's not worth for him to be there.
Sure.
Right.
So,
but there is Simonson still doing it for free.
Yeah.
And Simonson was doing quick sketches. He wasn't,
right.
Saying, come back at the end of the day and I'll have a $100 sketch for you. And I guess...
Or even a $50 sketch, right, Kev?
Shush.
But, and sometimes I kind of wish, let's say I walk up to some artists and it's like, okay, I don't... While your sketches are beautiful that you're spending 45 minutes on, they're gorgeous. But I just want... doodle Spider-Man in 2 minutes. That's what I want. That's what I have room on my wall for. That's what I'm interested in. I just want to have a bunch of sketches by a bunch of people, and they don't have to be masterpieces.
Well, some art. I have to say, some artists, from spending a lot of time in Artist Alley, some artists did offer that. They would offer one price for, a less detailed piece. And then, they charge you more for a more piece that they had to spend a lot more time on.
I guess $5 is my maximum that I feel. If my choice was $30 for a detailed headshot, or $5 for a quick sketch, I'd rather just pay $5 because that's closer to zero than 30 is. You know what I mean?
Plus, it gives you more time to go get other head sketches from other artists. So, I mean, for that $30, you get 6 head sketches for $5.
Exactly.
So you get more, punch.
Yeah, especially if you're going and you're taking a journal type book along,
right?
Yeah.
That you have to maybe leave with the artist to get him to do it, and that ties you up and you can't get around. I did get a Walt Simonson this time since I've been working on my book, and I got a Frog of Thunder, which was really cool.
Okay.
And it was one of those where I went to him when at first on Saturday, and he's like, "I don't want to do sketches right now. Come back later on." So I went back later on. I get in line and I hear in front of me, "Yeah, you're my last sketch." I was like, "Oh crap!" So I go up there and I said, he talked and he said, "Well, maybe we'll do some more after 5 o'clock." So 5 o'clock rolls around. I went back, and this is the third time he's seen me in his line. And I said, "Is 5 o'clock? You gonna do any more?" He looked at me, and goes, "Yeah, come over here." So he did a quick Frog of Thunder, which was really cool.
Awesome.
The panels at Baltimore, which I don't know, I just assumed that there weren't going to be any, but there were, and they were very good. The one that I went to, most of us went to, the spotlight on Marv Wolfman, talking about his career up to Crisis, and then talking about Crisis, and then everything after, not everything after Crisis, but any Crisis-related comics or not the novel, and then very briefly on Infinite Crisis. And, he has many stories to tell, and he certainly has a place in history now with his body of work. And it was very enjoyable to see Marv Wolfman talk. And it was hosted by Mark Waid, which was really kind of
cool.
interesting, yeah.
I thought that was a great thing when I found out that he was going to be the guest of honor, because you've seen in previous shows recently and such, you get a lot more like Alex Ross and Joe Quesada, so you get more of the recent, run-of-the-mill stuff. To see somebody like Marv Wolfman get recognized and be put on the honor spot was very refreshing, I thought. And he was wonderful. He was one of the best panels I've ever been to. He had a lot of insight, a lot of background stuff, very entertaining, very comical. Between the two of them, the interaction between Mark and Marv was phenomenal. So it was a very good panel. It was a wonderful panel.
It's basically the 20th anniversary of Crisis and the 25th anniversary of New Teen Titans, so they felt that he should be honored. Some of the other ones were... They did another Crisis counseling. They did Spotlight on Mike Waringo. And then on Sunday, Kevin went to the Spider-Man panel.
Yes, and that was Marv Wolfman, Frank Cho, Mike Waringo, Todd DeZago, and John Romita Sr. And it was just like an open forum, just discussing Spider-Man in general, and each creator that was there, their experience and their take on the character, and an open forum for people to ask questions.
They also did Denny O'Neil. And DC Comics A Look Ahead, that was on Saturday, and a few of you guys went to that as well. Anything major coming out of that?
No,
that we haven't heard already?
I stayed for as long as somebody started asking questions about some of the miniseries, and I haven't finished all them yet, so I ducked out. But it wasn't anything really new. There were a couple things about 52, and even one thing about Marv Wolfman's involvement connecting Crisis on Infinite Earths to Infinite Crisis. He's writing a story for it, so that was probably the biggest thing I heard.
Matt, was there anything in the Crisis counseling that was like new, or
aside from some of the stupid questions, like what's going to fill the gap between what happens for that year?
Right.
No, not really. I mean, they were good enough that some people were like, "What's going to happen with my characters?" And you're like, "Why would you want to know that? Well, you know, don't you just kind of want to experience it?" And that it was pretty interesting because it was semi-spoilish without being spoilish. If you, as long as you're pretty much current with what's going on in the miniseries, then pretty much you're not going to be spoiled with anything. And it was very interesting how, you know, they're saying, you know, you don't have to collect those if you don't want to. And somebody actually brought up about the sacrifice storyline. They said if you didn't buy that, that does not change what's happening in OMAC whatsoever. So no one really forced you to buy any crossover, so to speak. But no, they just were pretty much, they're all really jazzed about it. And it's really supposed to bring the whole universe together, and that they've really been putting a lot of time into this. And any deaths in it aren't going to just be like, oh, he died. It's that person died because it's going to have a ripple effect. And the reasoning is because one of the reasons their story came to as far as they can take that character. And with their death, that's going to cause a ripple effect. So it was pretty interesting from that point of view.
Well, and I have to say, this is the second time... Yeah, just the second time I've heard Dan talk about it. Dan Didio? Is that
Didio.
And it seems like he gets more excited every time I see him or hear about it or listen to something online. He gets so jazzed about it and so excited, I feel like he's going to bounce out of his chair.
Hey, who? Oh, go ahead, Jimmy.
No, just two things I hadn't... One thing I had heard and one thing I hadn't heard about... I'd heard about the new Spirit series, but I didn't realize that it was going to be kicking off with a Batman Spirit crossover that's going to be taking place, you know, in, I guess they said almost like current continuity type deal. And that's because they said the Spirit series isn't going to be like from the 40s or 50s, it's going to be in current day. So I hadn't heard about that, so that was kind of a surprise for me. And also a Matt Wagner Batman miniseries called Batman versus the Mystery Men. And the story is basically this will be the first time that Batman takes on a supervillain in his career. It's supposed to take place. He calls it Batman Year 1.5. Monster Men. That's right, Monster Men, Mr. Men. The Monster Men. And it's, you know, since in Batman Year 1 he was taking on the mob and all that kind of stuff. Now this will be the first time he encounters a supervillain type deal.
Who was it that we were talking to that mentioned they were going to do a Guy Gardner series coming soon?
Howard Chaykin. When we were talking to Howard Chaykin.
Howard Chaykin on Guy Gardner?
He said, because I asked him, I said, what are you doing? And
that's perfect.
Yeah, the first thing he said, he's doing some kind of, because I dropped a name. I know Ken Brusnak, who's a letterer who does a lot of Chaykin's lettering, and he said he and Ken were going to do a Western that's going to supposedly redefine the Western genre, and it's coming out from Disney Italia overseas, and he said one of the big two will pick it up to in the United States. But then he said right now it's going to be a Guy Gardner miniseries or series, and a couple other things. But the Guy Gardner, it kind of surprised me too.
Yeah, he said that, and I'm like, what? Guy Gardner? What?
Now, who was it? You guys were saying that. Some guy at DC said, "Build your bookshelves because next year we're trading like maniacs."
Yep, that's the same thing. That was Bob Wayne and Mark Waid. He said, "Build your bookshelves because they're going to start catching up, I guess, with all the trades and stuff like that."
Finally,
it sounds like they have a plan that it's not just going to be like, "Oh, we're just doing more." It sounds like they definitely have a plan. Would you say?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And the other thing, we talked to someone at the DC booth. And there's going to be a Superman Chronicles, like a Batman Chronicles released later this year, solicited later this year, I should say. Batman Chronicles next year. They're pushing the showcase some more. So it looks like they're going to pay attention more to that kind of stuff. And it's just probably they just had to get all this other stuff out of the way before they could focus on that. I assume. I don't know. With the publicity and marketing and things like
They
that.
finally just realized that their trade program is lacking and they need to build it up.
And this is the perfect time to do it with all the attention they're getting and all the readers jumping on and getting involved.
They did also say that, what's the next JLA? 119, I think? I think I picked one. Yeah, 119. That's going to be as important as the Wonder Woman issue in Sacrifice, I think they said. So, like, be on the lookout for that. If you don't usually get JLA, you may want to pick it up and read it. It's been an ongoing story for 4 or 5 issues now in JLA, but he said you definitely want to look at picking that up.
One of the things I overheard, just, randomly, and it's probably totally a rumor, so, take this as it was. Don't, this is not verbatim and this is not a fact. It's a rumor that Ed McGuinness might be moving to Marvel off of DC. And I have no idea if it's true or not, and I just overheard it and went, whoa.
Certainly would be interesting.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to see what they're going to put him on.
Yeah.
And my first thought that
Punisher.
comes to my head is Thor.
Really?
I don't know. For some reason, when I think of Ed McGuinness coming to Marvel and I think, what would I put him on? First thing that popped in my head was Thor.
Yeah, because he does the bigger-than-life type characters, and that would be perfect for a Thor series.
I think so. And there's, they've been hinting that, he's coming back in 2006. I don't know how recent or how soon or what, but I don't know. That's something that just jumps in my head. So see what I'd be curious to see how it follows through and what happens.
The other thing is we got to give a shout-out to the few listeners that we met down at the con.
That was way cool. We had people coming up to, you guys are the CGS guys?
Yeah.
You're the sexy bitches.
Well, I was going to say, I wanted to give a sexy bitch shout out to Bill Hughes, because he's the one who came up to us. He was the first one.
Yeah, that was cool.
On Saturday. Joe, and he goes by Jaylon on the forum. He was there both days, and we saw him a couple times. Mike Nguyen. Win, excuse me. When? Yes.
Just like the word when.
Yeah, today. Oh, no.
Mike, when.
Thank you.
Who's on first? I don't know.
Third birthdays or just...
We just saw him yesterday.
Yeah, okay. So we saw him, and I give a shout out to his... he works on the website neworderonline.com, which is a band, you said.
If you're a fan of the band New Order, they're now affiliated officially with New Order, and so
and he's
it's a big
blast.
deal.
Yeah. We saw Brandon, Brand X on the forum. And Dan, how did he say his name?
Nauschitz?
Yeah, something like that. And he was down with his family, and so I definitely want to give a shout out to all those guys. It was just so cool to see, or have them. Some of them came up to us, they recognized us because we all had our shirts on.
Yeah,
right.
And they were looking around and kind of shy for a second. Then, hey, you those guys? Yeah,
that was really neat. Cool. So we hope to. The next time we go to a convention, which we haven't figured out, maybe New York in February. That's probably going to be the next one to see more of you, because that was just a whole lot of fun.
Now, we learned something at this convention, which was very much a surprise to us. We were at Denny O'Neill's table, and we were talking to him, and we were telling him about the podcast, and I said, we have this thing where if anyone mispronounces a name, they got to put money in the jar that goes to the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. I said, and one of the names was Ra's al Ghul. I said, we learned from Scott Beatty in Wizard World Philly that he asked you and you told him that the correct pronunciation was Ra's al Ghul. So if anybody ever says Raish, coin in the jar. And he and his wife both went, whoa.
They kind of looked at each other first.
No. My daughter went to UCLA. She spoke to a language professor there. It's Raish al Ghul. So Scott Beatty either just forgot or lied to us.
and didn't he say you kind of roll the R a little bit?
Yeah, you kind of roll Raish.
There's a little bit of a flavor to it, but
it's like that foreign, different dialects and such.
Raish al Ghul.
Raish.
So does that mean that Scott Beatty owes some money then?
Yeah, Scott Beatty owes approximately $7,000 to the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, and Warner Brothers Studios from the movie owes about $16 million, I think.
That should provide enough for our new recording device and microphones, right?
That's right. Scott Beatty sent a check.
How funny is it that Wizard World, because of Bryan at Wizard World Philly, asked the question about that name pronunciation, and Wizard World, they reported it and said,
Yeah,
we're here telling you.
Newsarama reported it.
And now we're here to tell you no.
Full circle.
From the creator of
the original
Ra's al Ghul himself.
comment.
It's just crazy. Now I got to email Scott Beatty. I got to find his email address and say, you need to talk to Denny again because he just told us. It's great. It was ridiculous. Yeah. But he was super nice, and his wife was very nice.
Absolutely. Very gracious people.
We should mention some of the artists we actually did talk to.
This could take a half an hour.
Yeah.
Walt Simonson, Tim Truman, we saw Raymond Gregory, Denny O'Neil and his wife, Tom Rainey, Michael Lark, Robert Kirkman, Brandon Peterson, Brian Reber, Mark Brooks, thank you, it was on a fold in the page. The Luna Brothers, Rob Liefeld, Marv Wolfman, Jim Starlin. We saw the people at IDW, Top Shelf,
John Romita.
Eric Larson, John Romita Sr., Mark Wade, J.G. Jones, Howard Chaykin, and these are people we personally talked to. And all I'm going to say is we have some exciting things in the future.
And this was fantastic. We approached Robert Kirkman, and Peter went up to him first, and we were telling him about the Book of the Month Club and how everybody loved it. And he says, I heard that episode. And he started giving Peter a look. And then I was across the way talking to Brandon Peterson, and I just see Robert Kirkman look around. Peter points at me, and Robert Kirkman turns around and glares at me. He gives me the evil eye, I'm like, oh boy. What? So I come around, and I'm talking to him, and he says, what is your... I know the guy ran out of gas. I had to get... what am I supposed to do? One thing in the whole book, and you gotta... He says... And what's with the chapters in the book? It's a freaking, just read. He says, if you're on the shitter and you're done, you put a bookmark in it. What's your problem? Why do you need to know where one stops and starts? And he was joking around, but it was so funny. He was giving me all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
And then a couple times over the course of the show, like he was walking around the floor and he'd see me, and he just the whole time he walked past, he'd stare me down and give me this look, So then today, Tasha came down on Saturday with Lynn, and I called Tasha Saturday before she left. I said, bring my Walking Dead trade paperback volume 1. So I went over to Robert today, and I had him sign it, and he takes it, and he holds it close up to his chest, and he starts writing in it, and I can't see what he's writing. And then he says, oh, and while I'm here, and he starts flipping through, and he finds where each comic starts, and he puts... Issue 2 down at the bottom. He flips over, Issue 3. Now you know where they start. And Issue 4. And then I thanked him and walked away, and I opened it up, and inside the front cover says, "Eat me, jackass." Robert Kirkman. That's the greatest autograph I have.
I went up to him, and I told him how much I enjoyed the book, and I introduced myself for Shane. He goes, oh, are you the one that doesn't like the character Shane? I said, no, I love him because you used my name. I said, it's that guy that doesn't. I pointed over to Jamie.
Yeah, nothing. I mean, he didn't do anything to me. That was, but he was very nice to me. He was really cool.
He was.
Yeah, he was so much fun.
Yeah, and just the fact that he listened to the whole episode was really, really cool.
And those of you who've listened to the episode, and of course, we had a huge Shane debate. Just because I want to rub it in Jamie's nose, there will be a story about Shane and Rick's wife Lori later on, and again, that's all I'm going to say.
I don't care what the story says.
I heard it from the writer himself.
You say no.
He was a lot of fun. He was getting a lot of attention.
Yeah.
The biggest attention getter, which blew my mind.
Yeah,
always
surprise.
It still does, but it was Rob Liefeld.
Yep.
And his name is Liefeld, not Liefeld. It is Liefeld. We're here to prove all those name pronunciations wrong.
And I kept wanting to go up to the line and just ask him, Rob Liefeld is in this line. This is for Liefeld.
Oh.
And no, but they were. And the thing is, I stood there because I'm going to be doing something later on with a contest, but I got his signature. And I was watching him. He was doing sketches, but he was doing them, and they were like really nice for him. And but he was doing the sketches. That was the cool thing. And we got towards the end of the day on Saturday, we went up and to introduce ourselves and try to network was what we were doing. And all of a sudden he gets up and he left, and we're like, where did he go? And Peter's talked to his the manager, whatever his
handler,
contact person for his studios, and he said he sat down here at 10 o'clock. this is the first time he's gotten up to go pee since 10 o'clock. It was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So he was there that entire time, drawing, scribbling out his name, and just,
So
doing it for the fans.
Kudos to
so.
him for doing that, because that's
Yeah.
unbearable. It has to
Oh,
be
yeah.
unbearable all day.
And uncomfortable.
Yeah. So that's just great. I think that personally, that's like an old sports figure or an actor or an author just staying and just really committed to the fans.
He's
doing it.
committed. Yes,
Yeah.
that's the perfect word. He committed himself to be there for the fans and to take part. And he followed through with it. He wasn't lackluster about it. He wasn't taking it lightly.
Mm-hmm.
He committed to it and was there for each and every one of those fans that waited for him. And plus, I don't know if I don't think he had anything to do with it, but one of the things that they gave for the first couple hundred people that entered the show was the free issue of the Teen Titans 27 that Rob Liefeld did in the My Light bags. I guess that was a promotion thing to show you for the book. Yeah, so you actually got a free
to tie into 25th anniversary.
For the Titans, and also with having him there. So.
And for me, one of the neatest things, just watching you talk about like sketching and doing that kind of stuff, got a chance. Adam Hughes was at the show. He was another big draw.
I did that today. Lynn and I stood there and watched him draw a nice Captain America Red Skull pick for somebody, and then it was just wonderful to just sit there and watch him draw.
Yeah, and I watched him do another. It was also a Cap picture, and just to watch him go from line work, and then I kind of got out of his line, came back, and just from a line to the beauty that this picture was. And all he was using was Sharpie and a couple other different pens, and it was just amazing to watch him work. And another one from the old, for some of you old timers out there who like the old time artists. Today I was watching Dick Ayers was there. He and John Romita Sr. kind of had the booth back to back, and I saw he was drawing, so I went over and kind of looked over his shoulder to see what he was drawing. He was drawing this beautiful old Ghost Rider. I'm talking the cowboy Ghost Rider on the horse and everything. And I thought, that's kind of cool. And then also they made an announcement there was going to be a charity auction. John Romita Sr. had done a sketch, and I came over and I looked, and here John Romita, Dick Ayers had left enough area on the top. John Romita Sr. had drawn a Spider-Man coming in over the top, and what a picture. And we watched the auction. The auction, actually, they sold it, I think, to Steve Connolly, who does like Astonishing Space Adventures, for $1,000, $1,000. But it was a gorgeous piece of
all
artwork.
for the actor fund.
Yep, and that was all for actor.
That was cool.
I was going to say something, and now I forget.
I know some other artists that we talked to was I did mention Mark Teixeira,
right?
And Mark, and help me on this, Bryan, the Italian Sparacchio, who was a painter. He did the cover for Green Lantern 175 with Kyle Rayner on it. He had some beautiful, beautiful artwork there, all painted, and then some of it was just pencil tone. And he also showed some of his sequential art that he's doing some interiors for. And one of the most fun-loving guys and personal guys to talk to. I mean, he made it a point to remember your name. As you would talk to him later on, and 5 minutes later, he'd stop and go, "Okay, Kevin, Matt," and make sure he, and was more than happy to talk about it, and was very gracious for comments, and he was a great guy. I mean, he was just phenomenal.
And with me, I didn't really know who he was. I ended up buying artwork just because I thought it was so beautiful.
Well, actually, yeah. I mean, he had the stuff he had laid out was all numbered. Like, for instance, Adam, our MIA member for the last couple dozen episodes, he's a big Hal Jordan fan, and there's a nice, beautiful picture of Hal Jordan, and I just looked at that, and I'm just kind of ruining his Christmas present now, but
way to go there.
That was numbered. He said there's only 250, and I got the 88th one, and then they had a nice Black Cat sketch that I got, and I was looking at these, and I thought, what, these things are beautiful, but I kind of didn't want to spend the money. And talking to the guy for 5-10 minutes, and I was like, you know what, he's a very nice guy. I'll take him. I'll take one of this, and I'll take one of those. And I mean, it was nice. Just I didn't feel as though I owed it to him for being nice to me, but just talking with him, he was so personable that I had no problem spending the money anymore.
Yeah, I'd never heard of him, but I looked at his pencils, and they were amazing.
Beautiful.
And the inside artwork, I think, was for Elsinore. I think the comic book Elsinore.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I'm going to seek this out because this guy looks.
Yeah, they're not
really
inking it. The artwork's so beautiful.
Mhm.
They're not inking it. He's going to. They're going to color right over his pencils.
Yeah.
It looks that beautiful. And I asked him. I said, "What's got in store for you?" And he's doing more painted covers, stuff for DC. He tried to do some stuff for Marvel. He did a Mystique cover, but then they shut down the book, so that didn't get printed.
That was a nice
And it was a beautiful cover too. It was a shame it didn't get printed, but.
And we got to run into a friend of the show, a former interviewer, or interviewee, I should say. We got to talk to Michael Lark.
Yeah, he was sharing more story. He was telling me stuff that I won't repeat because he said, I was tempted to go into it on the air, but I thought, nah, I won't do it. So he was venting some frustrations with me, which was kind of cool. And
yeah, but he liked the result of the show. He said he liked it.
Yeah, and he was very cool. He was very joking around with us. Kind of in the same vein as Robert Kirkman was, and having a good time. And I got to hear a lot of stuff from some creators that they were saying, like, I'll tell you, but you can't repeat this because it's not released yet. So there's a lot of stuff just by talking to them that they shared with us.
And they make a point. I mean, they really make a point of talking. I mean, we
Right.
talked about this before. Talk to them. I mean, when I got into Marv Wolfman's line, and another creator that had a long line, I guess
Right.
because of all the attention, and the couple guys in front of me had, 20 books and 10 books and a hardcover and a couple other books, and then I went up and just shook his hand, and it's funny, like, while I was talking to him, he took his writing hand and was, like, stretching it out a little bit, and it really kind of wakes them up, makes them almost pay attention, and I think they remember those kind of moments. Same thing with Denny O'Neil. He was signing like crazy, and then we came up to him. He could actually settle back into his chair, and so they're approachable. And that's the neat thing I liked about this convention. It was you were able to do that and spend quality time with these creators.
And it was named creators. It wasn't. I'm not saying it would be bad if it was like second, third tier. I mean, this was John Romita Sr.
Yeah.
I mean, when Kevin and I talked to him for a second, he was like walking through. And it's just like Kevin said, it's a pleasure to meet you. And I said, it is an honor to meet you, sir. And he was, big smile, that jazzy Johnny smile.
And that's what I said to him. I said one of the things, I grew up with him. I mean, when I think Spider-Man, I think
John Romita Sr.
Yeah, he right down the block.
Kevin
from me. We
Romita.
played ball and
You
everything.
call him Uncle
Stickball.
Johnny, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Papa John. But no, every time that from growing up in the '70s and reading Spider-Man and that being my favorite character at the time, that's all I thought of was John Romita. All the merchandising stuff you saw, all the trademarking of Spider-Man, everything that was Marvel and Spider-Man was John Romita done. And I mentioned that to him, and plus said that my experiences with him over the years, meeting him and talking to him, that he's just one of the most fun-loving guys. And is more willing to talk to anybody than he doesn't know as well as somebody he knows for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And his reply was, "Yep, we're hams," And
he said the Italian comes out in me, and I was like, "Yeah, I know all about that."
So he's just a blast. I mean, if you have a moment to talk to him, he's just a blast to talk to. And his son's the same way. I got to meet him and his son at a couple different shows together, and they sit there and talk the whole time between themselves and the fans, and joke and carry on, and they're just like people you just want to spend the whole day with. They feel that comfortable.
I'll tell you, I also want to add in there, I really wish I knew the guy's name at the DC booth. Just a guy from...
Adam. I don't have his business card up with me.
But he does marketing there. We talked to him for maybe 5 minutes, just telling him that we enjoy what he's doing, what the company's doing with their universe, and that we're looking forward to it. And he kind of told us how much he's jazzed and just that he enjoys listening to what we have to say.
Adam Phillips.
Well, I mean, he was a very nice guy. That was, to me, that was a good presence there. I mean, they had tons of free stuff for you. I mean, they really went out of their way to merchandise, I thought. But then again, it's the first Comic-Con I was at.
Yeah, we should say
that is DC all the time.
Yeah.
This was Matt's first convention, and it was kind of like, it was
blew
funny.
my wad!
It was
his wad of cash. It's all gone.
It was funny watching him, walk in, and Bryan said this, walk in, and he's like, whoa, this is big. Bryan just coming back from San Diego.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
But it had to be neat to see that, because, I mean, where else do you go where you get comics, toys, artwork, creators to talk to, free freebies out the wazoo,
Panels.
Yeah.
Well, I know
and
after
gorgeous comic babes.
I know.
Boy, there were a lot of them this time.
Yeah.
I know after we came back from lunch, I had a quick tap mat because I was completely out, and I was like, I'll just get a couple bucks, and then I wound up buying some artwork, and I was like, and then I saw some more. I was looking at it, I was like, God damn! So I had to run across the street again to get some more money to come back and buy some more. I completely blew away my limit that I planned on spending, but I filled some runs. I got some nice artwork.
Welcome to the world of conventions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kevin knows that story.
Oh my God, and that's my biggest fear, because every time I go to a convention, when I'm looking for stuff, I end up coming home with hardly anything. And when I go to a convention not looking for anything, having no intention to buy anything in specific, and you end up coming out, $500 later? Here I come.
My wife will be proud. I did pretty good this time. I got a little bit of stuff, but I didn't go hog wild.
What was that you coughed, Matt? What did you say?
Exactly.
I tell you who I got a newfound appreciation for at this convention was Mark Brooks.
Yes.
He's a guy who penciled the first 6 issues of Aranya, that new Amazing Fantasy book, and then he did a couple issues of Amazing
Marvel
Spider-Man, and he did Marvel Age Spider-Man, and he's working on the new X-Men title that just was solicited in the new previews. Looking at his sketches that he had up there and his original pages and stuff, that guy is a masterful storyteller.
I mean, I fell in love with his art when he started doing those Marvel Age Spider-Man books. And, I've had how many reproductions of those old classic Spider-Man tales, but when I saw those covers he did for them, and wow, these are these old tales that they're introducing to new readers by using, new writers and new artists. And I saw this art, and I was like, I'm buying them. And I bought them, and I looked for his stuff ever since. And I made it a point to go talk to him at this show, and he was fantastic. I mean, he was a blast to talk to.
And was working nonstop while you were talking to him.
And
on the sketches that he had to do. Yeah.
And he was telling us about it. And I'm not an X-Men fan. I used to read all, the Claremont Byrne X-Men and stuff like that, and I liked it. But, I haven't seriously bought X-Men for years. And now I'm starting to buy. I bought the first trade for Astonishing, and I haven't read that yet, but I'm anxious to read that. But after talking to him and seeing some of the stuff for that new X-Men book, I'm interested in picking it up and reading it.
And that's the title, New X-Men.
New
I know
X-Men.
It sounds like we're
and that's
saying
what he
New X-Men, but
told Bryan and I, that it's the first title that in a while that deserves the title New X-Men, because this isn't this is a mix between New Mutants and some X-Men characters, so it is a new X-Men team. So he feels that it warrants the title of New X-Men. And Bryan asked him if it was more geared towards a younger audience, and he said no, this is fitting right in with the rest of the X universe, so to speak. And I was like, you know what, I'm interested in checking it out now. So
yeah, and I mean, really looking at his artwork was awesome.
Yeah, I spent quite a bit of time flipping through all his original pages, and they were just gorgeous.
Yeah,
gorgeous stuff.
He already is, but I mean, he's gonna keep making an impression on the industry. He's gonna
he'll
be well-renowned
a year or two, he'll be a superstar with a line wrapped around the table.
Yeah.
Where everybody wanted his signature.
And kudos to Bryan Reber, his colorist.
Oh.
Yeah. That's the that's why Matt bought a Superman Batman beautiful piece of artwork from
After I went to the Mac machine.
by Ed McGuinness, but the coloring on that made that image just jump right out, and it was amazing.
And it was nice because we talked to him about similar things that we spoke with Brian Miller with on our interview, about the coloring industry and being recognized and things of that nature. And he shared a lot of information about.
He takes it very seriously.
Yeah, he does, and rightly so. Because I always said the colorist is doing a lot more to the books than they used to. I mean, granted they put the color into it, but now you got a lot more. With not even doing inks, skipping the inks and going right to the color process. And he talks about a lot of pencilers who deliberately don't do a lot of artwork. And it makes
mostly all line work.
Right, and then, they hand him the book, and all of a sudden it's like, I got to do 3 times the work that I had to do and still get paid the same price and no recognition for it.
One of the panels was Art of Embellishment today, and here I'll read you a little quote. Or the description. Inkers have the most misunderstood and personally frustrating assignment in the production of the comic book. They must find that very fine line between making pencilers look good while trying to display a bit of style of their own. usually with the most crushing deadlines imaginable. Now, no slight to inkers.
Not at all.
But when I'm hearing a colorist say they got to do 9 issues in how many?
No.
Or
An issue in 4 days.
An issue in 4 days,
right.
And that, to me, is incredible.
I mean,
it's amazing.
Talking to Chris Sotomayor and stuff, that is constantly happening. They're
Yeah.
the last person to get that artwork, and they are right on the cusp of the deadline. So they are always being pushed and shoved and constricted, and working countless hours just trying to get it out on the deadline, and still doing beautiful work.
Yeah.
And
they have a style. You know, I've come to appreciate
Absolutely.
coloring so much. You know, when somebody like Brian Reaver can switch his style from different artists,
right,
you know, and make
give it a different
point,
feel
yeah.
and change the mood, and
not to slight inkers at all. You know,
No,
I know that
absolutely.
they have
Everybody
their work
has
too. Yeah.
equal, input to what the artwork, between a pencil inker and a colorist, and but the colorist is usually the one that gets kind of left out, and even the inkers aren't always acknowledged either. It's usually the writer and the artist.
Right.
And I think nowadays it's kind of changed because it's such more of a balanced input, and sometimes more unbalanced in the opposite direction of the way things have always been recognized. But everybody, I don't want to just pinpoint certain people, but everybody was phenomenal to talk with.
Randomly.
Everybody's more than willing to share anything you wanted to talk to them about, and be very personable and take the time to talk to you.
Yeah, and also, going with the show, if you're going there to buy stuff, there was, like I said, a nice selection of comics. You had all kinds of price ranges, from your golden, your silver age stuff to your 8 for $1 box.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
so
that box had my legs shaking.
So it was, I definitely highly recommend going to this show again if you get
$5 trades.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And then half
50%
off trades. Yep.
My one gripe is just get the goddamn Moon Knight issues out of the 50-cent and dollar bins. 'Cause 6 months from now, those things are going to be gold. Except for the Stephen Platt, you can keep them there.
Thank you.
They're talking about next year adding a Friday. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said depending on the guy that runs the show.
Depending on attendance.
He said by Saturday night he was going to look at the attendance records, and then that would be his decision whether he wanted to add a Friday onto the Saturday and Sunday weekend for next year.
Right.
Personally, if he does that, then it's got to get bigger. It just wasn't big enough for me for 3 days. After 2 days, I was, I'd seen everything. We had talked to everybody we wanted to talk to, blah, blah, blah. They want to make it 3 days, then give me just a little bit bigger.
Hey, I want to give I don't know what I want to call it.
Thank you.
There's a guy, I can't even remember. Is it Vince on our board?
Oh yeah,
who's
Vince.
the big Mylar fan?
Yeah.
I think it's Vince. Vince
D, I think.
Yeah. I admit defeat. All right. One of the
swayed.
major sponsors of the show was the company that produces Mylights, which is a big brand of Mylar bags. And at his table, they had samples of 1.4 mil Mylars and 4 mil Mylars, and you got a sample, one of each, with a backer board and everything in it. And we were standing there talking to him, and he said, and I said, I don't like Mylars because they're crinkly, and he pulled out their product, Mylights 1, which is a 1 mil, and he just took it in his hand and he crumpled it up in the palm of his hand. He says, yeah, these suck. Everybody hates these because they crinkle, and we admit that everyone hates this, and this is not cool anymore. And so we made this new product, and it's 1.4 mil. And it's still a little crinkly, but not nearly as crinkly as the 1 mil stuff. And he says,
still crystal clear.
And it's still crystal clear and everything. And he says, how do you like this? And I said, this isn't
better.
bad.
Yeah.
And then he held up the 4, which is like solid as a rock, is awesome.
Loved that one.
And then he showed me the 2, which is not at all crinkly, yet firm, and it was nice. Mine's out of the gutter.
Hey, when do we switch to Saturday night? That's all I want to know.
So I was talking to him for a while, and he was very informative, giving me all the information and everything, and thought about it for a while. And today I bought a pack of 52 mil Mylights because I'm going to eventually get enough just for my grooves. I have no interest in my grooves need to be rebagged and boarded anyway, so I'm going to do my grooves in archival material so that I never ever have to do it again. So Vince, you have a conversion there.
What was the one that the 2 samples? What was the lesser sample?
1.4.
1.4. This is 1.4. So still a little crinkly, not as
not
bad.
compared to that 1.
And then here's the 4. I mean, it's
no
solid.
comparison.
It's and you can't almost even fold it over.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to have to double take like those wackos behind me, because it's like how else is the flap going to stay down?
Hold it. Yeah.
We might need duct tape for the flap on the 4 mil. I mean, it's a heavy.
They are very nice.
Gun.
Yeah.
And he also showed us in an example. He took 4 comics, the exact same comic. It was an issue of Hulk from like the 70s or early 80s, and he put it one in the old normal polypropylene bags that were the common bag for years and years and years, and then also put the same comic in his My Life bags, and kept it in there for an extended period of time.
And he said 6 years.
Yeah. And what a difference! I mean, the comic. What they found is the polypropylene bags expel, I don't know, chemicals or something, and it does. The polypropylene clouds after a period of time.
Gets a little
And
yellow.
it also dulled and faded the book. And the ones in the My Light are crisp and clear as the day they were published and put in that bag. And he said that this product is not something that they just made for comics and for the comic industry. He said this is an archival plastic that they use for museums, and it's the same product. He said, don't let anybody tell you anything different.
He said they even do military contracts with this material.
Right. So I mean, it's the same product, and it's...
And didn't he say something about the fact that the backing boards really don't make that much of a difference?
That's right.
Yeah, he said the backing board is for rigidity.
Yep. That's it.
And so if you had a 4 mil bag, you almost don't even need the board because those things are so rigid.
Yeah.
It's not, if it's in a box, it's not going to get bent up at all.
And most of these things, the 4 mil and the 2 mil, they're coming out in November.
4 mil and the 1.4 are coming out in November.
November.
They should be in this previews, I think you said.
Yeah.
So the convention center itself was really nice.
I thought it was well
comfortable,
organized and very
air-conditioned,
clean.
very open.
Very
Yes.
orderly.
Yes.
Everything moved without much blockage or hustle and bustle.
High surveillance. Security personnel.
If we had to say anything, the MTA line was running a little late Saturday morning, so we couldn't get to the convention center.
We are cursed with public transportation systems. Wherever we go, there's problems with the train.
But at least we didn't kill anybody this time.
That's right. There were no
Or
deaths.
we almost killed those 2 kids. You know, Peter almost went crazy on 2 little
Ballistic.
kids. So.
Yeah.
Peter would be a tough guy on a 10-year-old.
Oh,
Yeah, he knew he could probably take him. He was like, I'll kick your ass, little kid.
But that was only because there was about 5 other of us there as well.
personally, I hold Joe from Baltimore. I hold him responsible for not telling us about the the transportation system.
The train did a fine job when
Yeah,
it ran.
Yeah, we got
The
fine.
train was
Everything
clean.
was cool.
Train was very cool.
But I was very impressed with the center itself and how it was organized and put together. It was a good show.
And even like Wizard, when they make an announcement, I will say that in that big of a hall you can't hear properly. It reverbs and echoes. Whereas here you could hear whenever there was a panel going on upstairs. You could tell what was going on. It was very easy to hear.
One of the things, if you're ever in Baltimore, on the corner of Utah and
Lombard?
was that it? Lancaster?
It's
Might
good.
want to check out that corner. I don't know if I want to say any more,
Enough said,
anything more than
huh?
that. Place called the Goddess.
Jamie, give it
Just,
your.
just check it out.
It gets the shiznit pink.
Pink?
I am working on 9 hours sleep, people. 9 hours
for the whole
weekend.
For
You
the
had
whole
to wake up for
weekend.
last night.
Yeah.
It gets the shiznit pimp cha-ching seal of approval. That's all I have to say. Everybody was quite impressed with my pimp hand that night. I will
He's
say.
a regular Charlie
I
Sheen.
brought the women's to the table. That's all I know. I brought the women's to the table.
We won't go into too much detail on that
No.
one.
What
But
happened there
it was
stayed
nice.
there.
Yeah.
It was
we had a lot of fun.
show bar, and we're not talking about them doing guys and dolls, okay? This was a show bar.
The funniest thing was I actually went up to Raymond Gregory because he told us that
Raven.
Raven Gregory, that the professionals go to a certain hotel and they hang out and blah blah blah. And we went there and didn't see him, although he said he did come later.
Oh.
And I said, yeah, but you didn't tell us about the goddess. And he goes, what are you talking about? And I told him, and he goes, oh, I'm going to know about that later tonight.
So we'll be inviting them next year.
Yeah.
That's right.
We'll be the corner of attention there and bringing everybody to our locale party spot.
Hey, we got an email from Tom Martinek, Mr.
Hey,
Fusion,
Mr.
on the message boards. And he had a special plea for me to read this email. Hey, Comic Geeks. I told you about the comic I've been writing, and well, it's pretty much done. The problem I've run into is that we're having some scheduling difficulties with the guy we originally wanted to do the artwork. So I'd like to tap into the vast CGS audience and see if I can find someone who is either ready to break into the world of comic art or a professional who wouldn't mind doing a side job for a small independent company, not to mention helping out a fellow Comic Geek Speak fan. The book is about 54 pages and will be printed in black and white. Ideally, the artist would do the pencils and inking. There will be pay involved. If anyone is interested, please send an email to hwcomic@gmail.com. That's hwcomic@gmail.com. Please include a sample of your artwork and some original page layouts. I've got some other sources to look for artists, such as digitalwebbing.com, but I'd really like to see if there's a fellow CGS zombie who can do this first. I've included several references to this show throughout the book, and I thought it would be a lot easier to get a listener to slip in some frecking swear graffiti on a wall without having to explain what it means. Finally, let me just say this is a professional job with a real publisher, not a photocopied fanzine. Not that there's anything wrong with that. This will be published. It will be available in stores, and who knows, maybe someday it will be picked for the CGS Book of the Month Club. So if anybody out there has a gift with the pencil, contact Tom. Because we're anxious to read it, so we need it to get finished so we can get a copy.
Just real quick, I want to say, Rusty from the forum, next episode, I promise, I will do what I've promised months ago, and I'll give your pitch the attention it needs. But Rusty, just hang in there. One more issue, I promise.
Gonna read anything more? Are you looking in there?
I'm looking.
Anybody find any decent stash in anything they want to talk about? Something real quick that they bought. There were some excellent 50-cent bins. Oh, yeah. And thank you again, retailers, the ones that put them in order, because some of those aren't in order.
I must say, over most other shows, these were totally in order.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where, look, I understand you have an abundance of them, and the comic's not, that important that they can be in the 50 cent or a buck, but at least go to the extra step of putting them in order, for Christ's sakes. You don't even have to put all the R's in the correct, like RA, just at least put all the R's together. I don't mind just looking through that section, but don't just throw them in there.
Everybody goes to conventions with a list.
Right.
And it's just so random. Like when I see a 50-cent bin that's in order,
You're all over it.
Yeah, I'm more willing to spend my money in big chunks at your stand than if I have to sit there and look, because by Sunday I go blind. I can't discern anything.
Yeah, when you see 10 boxes, whether they're 50 cents or 8 for $1, like we saw, and you go diving through and find out everything's just a mishmash, it totally takes away your motivation.
Oh, yeah, it knocks the wind right out.
Yeah, it's like, well, I'll quick flip through it and see if something comes about. But when they're in order, man, you end up picking up stuff you didn't even really intend to look for because you come across it, or you start thinking of other things because it's so easy to find it.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I know trades were a big thing for me. I picked up a lot of 50% off trades and even some $5 trades, and the biggest score I had, which is an early birthday present from Lynn, is I got the Miracle Man Randy Bowen statue.
Had nothing to do with the puppy eyes and the whining that you did beforehand, right?
Like, I was referring more to Puss in Boots, but no, I got the Randy Bowen Miracle Man statue that he produced with Neil Gaiman for $80, which was originally retailed for $150. So that was a cool buy for me.
All right, we got an email from Billy Beechler. Says, hey guys, I'm really enjoying your show, and I am always pleased to see a new episode ready for download at iTunes. I'm a pediatrician working at the Riley Hospital for Children in Indianapolis, Indiana. Your work to promote causes, such as the Kermit figure and the MS-150 bike ride, that support research into treatment for meningitis and MS is commendable, super heroic even. Thanks from all the medical personnel who do research, and especially from the patients we see and treat. Now, on to comics. On naming pets and children after comic characters. Our cat is named Streaky after Supergirl's cat in the Silver Age. My wife and I have triplet daughters, Anne, Julia, and Rosalind, while Rosalind is named for the character in As You Like It, and Julia from the Beatles song. My daughter Anne's name has a geeky etymology. Buffy, as in Vampire Slayer, is one of my all-time favorite television shows, probably only eclipsed by Firefly. In the show, it was revealed that her middle name was Anne. Buffy is a nickname for Elizabeth, so Buffy's full name could have been Elizabeth Ann Summers. Well, my Anne's full name is Anne Elizabeth Beechler. Tricky, eh? I'm not sure that my wife realizes this, so don't tell her. When we found out we were having girls, she said right away, no Lois and no Mary Jane. He has also included in his email some Stump the Rios questions.
I have no money left for the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund box.
Probably have no energy left.
And no energy.
That's right.
Too many tips. That's what it was. Too many tips.
I have some weeds that need to be pulled. So
and toilets need to be scrubbed,
But they're not in his yard.
all right. First question. The Spirit had a few recurring villains, mostly femme fatales, but only a few vexed him multiple times. This baddie was one of the worst. You never saw his face, so just the same gloved hands, and while he never met his goal in killing Denny Colt, he did manage to blind him for a few weeks in newspaper time. What was this nasty guy's name?
Midnight.
It was the Octopus. First introduced July 14th, 1946. Scrooge McDuck made his fortunes in multiple ways and in many different businesses. But his road to uber riches really started during the gold rush around the time of Dawson in the Yukon. Beyond finding
I can't believe you're still reading this.
Beyond finding the big gold nugget that started it all, he also found a woman who could match him in brains and toughness. Barks introduced her in the classic Back to the Klondike story, and she has appeared in many of Don Rosa's stories. What is her name?
I'm still looking for the gold nugget in these questions.
I'm still looking for the comic reference. Yeah, I know.
Don't use it, because I was talking to Don Rosa today, so... No.
I have no
I think
idea.
she's also in DuckTales.
I believe so.
Daisy Duck.
Anybody else know the answer?
Goldie?
That is
Yes,
correct.
that's right.
Glittering Goldie O'Gilt, introduced in 1953.
Superhero questions, people, not Disney.
You've been overstepped by Matt.
It's going to be Stump the Keener soon.
Yeah.
I only read superhero comics. Wow.
All right, question 3.
Never said Disney.
My favorite comic collection this year, bar none, is the gemstone reprinting of all 12 chapters of Don Rosa's The Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck.
I'm done.
In that series, we follow Scrooge from being a child in Scotland to becoming the richest person in the world. We also are witness to the first meeting between Scrooge and his nephew Donald. Donald is a child at the time, but sees Scrooge's cruel behavior toward his sisters, one of which, of course, is Donald's mother. What does Donald do to Scrooge at this first historic meeting?
I don't want to say.
Say it.
Punches him. I don't know.
He kicks him right in the ass, as seen in the 11th chapter of The Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck.
I ain't saying nothing.
I ain't saying nothing either. And I am not putting any money into that jar. I'm sorry.
You got stumped, bitch.
No,
You got stumped.
Come on, you
Those
know,
are all viable questions. Sorry,
it's
those
not.
are all
No, it's
viable
not.
questions.
No, it's not.
I've read them,
Everything's
baby.
on
I've read them.
superheroes. I've read Disney and Looney Tunes too, but that ain't what Stump the Rios is about. So keep doing your work. Keep doing your pediatrician work. Thank you for your comment.
You're getting all,
Thank you
getting
for
all
playing.
pissy all of a sudden.
I'll put his money in the
Yeah, you
bitch.
put your money in there.
says, I hope these weren't too out of the geek's range of knowledge.
Yes, they were.
If they were, I really recommend the Spirit Archives from DC, starting with Eisner's post-World War II strips, and all of Eisner's amazing works. Any of the Carl Barks Duck comics, many editions of his stories can be found on Amazon and other online booksellers. And my major recommendation, even a book of the month, hey, I can dream, can't I? Don Rosa's amazing The Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck from Gemstone Publishing.
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
He says, thanks for hours of fun listening and keep on reading.
I literally talked to Don Rosa today. He was one of the guests. Gemstone had him. Yeah. And I even told him that we had talked about his stuff on the air. And
we have?
Yeah, no, I have. When people have asked for stuff that's suitable for kids, I've definitely.
I don't ever remember writing down Scrooge McDuck in my show.
Well, I've said any Don Rosa stuff. Yeah, maybe if you listen.
Hey.
But no, he's a very personable guy, and I definitely second that gentleman's email. That's great stuff.
Well, actually, I think he wins what we were discussing for a prize is we all saved our entry bands, and we're going to cut them off and we'll sign them, and that's what you get as a prize.
I'd have to go back to Maryland for mine.
So, Peter.
Funny.
That's
funny.
pitiful.
Hey, not everybody can watch cartoons. I mean, I realize, Matt, you just watched that last week, so...
Of course, that was at your house, but...
Boy, he gets bitchy when he
I know.
Jesus.
Last night he was all, woo, woo!
What an ego on Mr. Rios.
Going to the bar, dancing in the streets.
Scrooge McDuck.
I must admit, I mean, I've never read them,
No, I haven't either.
but
They kept making the announcement.
it has no appeal to me unless, I mean, I could be wrong if I actually read it, but I would back you up, Peter, in that I have so much other reading to do before I'm going to read a Scrooge McDuck. I mean,
No, it's just extremely enjoyable, all ages comic. Gorgeous artwork. The guy's so crisp, so clear. His artwork is just gorgeous, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it.
So send us your email so I can send your prize. That's all I have to say.
Grumble.
Yeah, I'm going to be Daffy.
I'll tell you one of the cool things that, and we'll just stay with Don Rosa. I don't know if anybody looked at his stand at all, but his background, what he did was he did some old, like Marvel, DC covers, like famous covers, like Avengers 4. He did the Adventure comics where they were voting on Superboy to be the Legion, but he put the ducks in them, and I just thought it was really cool seeing some of those covers with his take on them.
A lot of it, too, is just that I'm not a Donald Duck fan. I'm a Daffy Duck fan.
Yeah, so am I.
But it's good because it was Scrooge McDuck, I believe.
Well, it's still the same line.
Part of the same.
Sit back.
Yeah, I'm a Looney.
what the hell's going on?
I'm a Looney Tunes guy all the way.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I never really got into Disney that much, but I love their art and I love the stuff they do. But I'm a big Looney Tunes guy.
And in response to this guy's email, my bike ride is this weekend coming up, so I have just a few more days to train my ass off, and then all the money's on the line, you know.
And our first donation to the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund will probably be in another couple months, as we are hoping to line up an interview with them. So we'll be making our first donation to them, and then we'll pick a new fund, maybe the Actor Fund or something like that, for the next round.
Yeah.
I guess I want to put a big thank you out to all the creators and all the retailers and artists and everybody at the show and the fans and the people who put the Baltimore show together. It was a wonderful time this weekend, and it was the first stop on the World Convention Tour of CGS, and I had a blast with everybody, and I had a real good time. And I want to thank everybody.
Stop. We'll say not technically the first time.
Well, this is the first one that we all went together under the umbrella of CGS, and
it was the first time we had all gone to Baltimore at all, right? None of us had been.
Not to the Baltimore Con, no.
Yeah,
no, exactly not. And a big thank you to Lynn for my statue.
Oh, Snoopy.
And a big thank you to to the Black Canary and to the redhead in the ripped jeans and the girl in the Supergirl
Smells
shirt.
so good.
And
To that hot
Alpha
blonde with the
monkey,
glasses at the cards, comics, and collectibles. Gonna get high and up all day.
and to the girl in the green and white striped shirt. And,
Okay, let's
and,
move
and
on.
to the
To the
fact
blonde.
Catherine has now ripped her headphones and she's run screaming from her building.
I just want to shout out to my arm that still smells like stripper. So.
And his finger.
From hugs.
Yes, I was going to say, come on.
Catherine, please keep listening.
Actually, before we get out of here, I just want to say I'm glad I went. I almost, because I had a rough couple days of work before, and I almost wanted to back out because I was so freaking irritated with just being around people. But I'm glad I stuck it out, and I think we all had a really good time.
Yeah,
Even
absolutely.
outside of the convention, just the dinners that we had, and it was
Just
really
the fun
good.
that we had, being together and having a blast. And
Driving around Baltimore.
And Peter's shaving ass.
Come on.
How many times did Peter press ham this weekend? I think 3.
He was sending us a fruit basket.
I think 3.
I don't know, but I can't get Hank McCoy out of my mind.
Jamie's going to have a fit.
I swear to God, we did this. This was Saturday night. We were coming from meeting.
Tell the story.
We're coming from meeting, and he did all this pressing the ham. I was laughing so freaking hard. I just couldn't. I couldn't breathe. It was just. I was. Oh.
I was pretty sure I was going to have to stop the car and perform CPR on Jamie.
Yeah. It was just like. I was like, stop.
We saw some blueberries, raspberries, dinkleberries.
Oh, man. And the hotel was fun, too.
Yeah, it
We're all
was.
crammed together in one room.
We had
not one room, 2 rooms.
2 rooms, yeah. We had a blast. It was. Everything was nothing but a good time.
Yes.
So join us next time, all you people who said you were going to come and didn't come or didn't find us. Enjoy the fun. And I highly, like Kevin said, I highly recommend the Baltimore Con. Just definitely go. I'm going to put that on a con that I want to go each year. I mean, Wizards of Con I want to go each year. San Diego I wish could be a con I go to each year if it wouldn't cost so much.
Oh, you will be.
But Baltimore is now on my list of definite cons to go to.
And all you got to do is check out their website. It was at baltimorecon.com or something like that. Check on comic.
Search it on Google.
Yeah, search it on Google, but just
Google.
pull up.
Speaking of Google,
Yes.
Pull up their website and just look at the guest list they had. And
Yeah, there were some cancellations, but there were
very
a
little
lot of
though.
people there.
Very little.
And there was good reason that there were cancellations.
Yeah.
too, for-
Jeff Johns, they said really wanted to be there, but to make sure that the fans get their books on time with all of his projects, that unfortunately he was asked to stay behind and get that out. So that was for us. That's,
But a big thanks to all the creators. They were a blast to talk to, and
And you know what? The convention goers were not the typical. So every now and then you get like a few convention goers where you're like, oh man, or it was all around. It was just so nice and laid back and a lot of fun.
Yep.
There weren't as many convention goers that were like those way out,
Right.
like freak geeks.
yeah. Even the geeks call freaky is what you say.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of Google ads, we have what we think are some very important and exciting interviews coming up, and we want to give you the best possible sound quality that we can, because it's pretty much the only complaint we ever get is that our sound quality is sometimes less than perfect, and with the phone calls we know, because it's cell phone, speakerphone held up to the microphone, and it's kind of it's a little cheesy. So we want to get some equipment that will allow us to do professional sounding phone interviews. Unfortunately, that equipment is not cheap at all. But you guys have been going along with our Google ad campaign, and we are making money faster than we ever thought. And so we ask for you to continue to click those ads until we have enough money to buy this equipment. And it should really only take a couple more weeks. At the rate we're going, 2-3 more weeks of this, and we'll be there. And so please, we just keep clicking. We really appreciate it, and it's only just going to help the show be that much better, and hopefully you'll get even more enjoyment out of it. Because it's exciting times ahead. It really is.
Yeah, you bet.
So, click away. And on that note, going to bring the show to a close. If you would like to send us an email, do so at comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. And that's where you can send your Stump the Rios questions, your audio geeks of the day, whatever. Check out our new website, at www.comicgeekspeak.com. The URL was registered by a fan whose name I forgot to write down ahead of time. I apologize. And
this is like the unofficial announcement.
Yeah,
we'll make an official announcement soon.
And the website was designed for us by a listener. He goes on. I can't remember his real name, but he goes on the board. He's Melkalorian. The guy's working on some other very cool stuff. So we really appreciate all his work on that. So check it out. And a big thanks to Bob at GameCircuit.net for hosting all the files. And for UpAllNightGaming.com, which is now hosting the website. Please vote for us at Podcast Alley. So far this month, our rank when we left for the convention was like 43. So that's our best ranking ever. So keep voting. If you want to buy a T-shirt, you can do so. And they're only $10, including postage. You can find more out about our blog. And once again, we're brought to you in conjunction with World Famous Comics. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time. See you next time.
Bye, Baltimore.
Bye.